In measures, Ministers Lawrence Wong and Ong Kang have some answers. If you have one of these ART kits at home, they're not meant for use by consumers. And more signs of the region reopening as Singapore's neighbours relax some restrictions. Hello, welcome to The Big Story. I'm Olivia Quay. From tomorrow, those unvaccinated against COVID-19 can no longer eat at hawker centres and coffee shops or enter shopping malls. The move, according to the Health Ministry, is to protect individuals who haven't had their jabs and to reduce the pressure on the healthcare system. And earlier today, Ministers Lawrence Wong and Ong Kang, co-chairs of the COVID-19 task force, teamed up to answer some of the most pressing questions about the measures, as well as the need for booster shots. Here they are in a video shared on social media.
Don't have to worry, we will provide flexibility for those who need to go to the shopping mall for medical treatment at the GP or at the dentist. Kids under 12 are already exempted from the vaccine-differentiated measures today, so that continues. On top of that, there may be caregivers who are unvaccinated who need to bring the children for these childcare services in the shopping mall. Again, we will provide flexibility for such cases.
It doesn't mean that 6 months after your vaccination or second dose, suddenly switch off, no protection. It wanes slowly over time. So what we observe is that as it wanes, around 6 to 9 months, you can take your third shot.
You've got your booster already, right?
You got already.
I just became eligible, so I'm going to get mine soon.
Yeah, I got mine on Thursday.
Well, ahead of tomorrow's new dine-in rules, Sustainability and the Environment Minister Grace Fu explains that this move is pragmatic in hawker centres and coffee shops, given that these places were frequently visited by a large proportion of positive cases. It's also challenging, she said, for operators to implement a single entry point in such porous venues.
From 13 October onwards, the VDS at hawker centres and coffee shops will be implemented in a very pragmatic way. We have more than 100 hawker centres and more than 1,000 coffee shops. And each one of them has different layouts with very different operational requirements. And we understand from the operators that it's very challenging to implement a single access point or to have a mandatory compulsory checking access points. So we have decided to take a pragmatic approach in implementing the VDS from now onwards. So at our hawker centres and coffee shops, we require operators to remind their patrons as they walk in that if they are not vaccinated, that they shouldn't dine in. We will have posters, and we will also use our public announcement systems where applicable to constantly remind diners that if they are not vaccinated, they should not be dining in.
In other news, these 8 nightlife F&B establishments have had their public entertainment and/or liquor licenses revoked after repeated breaches of COVID-19 rules, including providing hostesses services and not ensuring group sizes didn't exceed the prevailing limit. These places have also been ordered to close for between 10 and 30 days and may be liable for prosecution as well as composition notices. People who bought SG Diagnostics antigen rapid test kits are urged by the company to return the product. The kits are authorized by the Health Sciences Authority to be supplied only to professional service providers like healthcare institutions and clinics. They're not meant for consumers to self-test at home. Buyers are advised to return the kits to their suppliers and ask for a refund. Malaysia reporting over 7,200 new COVID-19 cases today. This is up from yesterday's figure, which was the lowest since July the 5th, and comes as Malaysia hit a milestone yesterday when it lifted travel curbs for fully vaccinated people. They can now travel between states and out of the country without needing special permission. Malaysians whom the Straits Times spoke to are looking forward to visiting their relatives in other states after 9 months of travel curbs. With an update is the Straits Times' Malaysia Bureau Chief Shannon Teo joining me from KL. So Shannon, your observations to start. You wrote that families are looking forward to reunions, but has there already been more travel across state borders?
As far as the highway authorities have checked and they've looked at the highways, they've got CCTVs all over. Traffic hasn't actually increased a lot from, say, last week, right? There are people who are still traveling for what we call essential purposes, for business, for trade, lorries moving goods, so on and so forth. It hasn't really picked up yet as of yesterday. And I think that might be because people are waiting for the weekend. It also promises to be something of a long weekend. We have a public holiday next week, which is Prophet Muhammad's birthday. I believe it falls on the Tuesday. So, people might be looking at taking the Monday off and going off for a 4-day weekend. So the expectation is that there'll be more traffic this weekend. The Penang state government, for example, is saying is expecting 50,000 visitors this weekend alone.
With more allowed to travel within the country now, does it mark the start of proper recovery for businesses, especially those in the tourism sector?
A lot of people have looked at what happened in Langkawi. As you know, we had a travel bubble that opened on September 16. Now, Kedah state government has said that in the 3 weeks since that opening, the tourism sector there has collected something like 25 million ringgit. I know that doesn't sound like a lot on paper, but Langkawi technically is a very small island. Now, if you multiply that across the country, you're going to get quite a fair amount of money in a 1 month period. People are talking about in the hundreds of millions going back into a tourism sector, which, has been starved for most of the past 18 months.
Well, Shannon, our health minister said Singapore and Malaysia will want to start taking concrete actions to reopen borders as soon as possible. What's the Malaysian government saying about reopening the border with Singapore?
I think the messaging from Malaysia is that we are heading towards endemicity, right? We are not in an endemic phase yet, but we are transitioning. So authorities are still very careful, right? They understand that businesses want to reopen, business travelers want to move in and out. And maybe there is a larger need for Singapore to open up international travel first, because it is the regional hub. People need to come in and out of other regional, financial hubs in other parts of the world. Malaysia doesn't have that much of a pressing need in terms of the economy. So it is looking at which countries might be suitable. It is obviously looking at Singapore as the first point to open. The Johor state government especially wants to reopen the border with Singapore. They are pushing hard. They would like it to have happened yesterday, because they are saying that they've vaccinated all the commuters, all the workers. They are ready, right? We don't have to allow everyone, but the guys who need to work, let's allow them to cross. So that's what Johor is saying. The federal government, on the other hand, is being a bit more careful. It doesn't want to be blamed for any kind of new spike. I think right now, with reopening interstate borders, it's kind of like a test bed for the federal government. And if everything goes smoothly, then Singapore next, maybe other countries. So it's taking things step by step, very slowly. It hasn't even opened up to foreign visitors coming in. Malaysians can leave, but we are not accepting foreign tourists yet as it stands. So it is a kind of a drip by drip level of reopening. But the government is saying we are not endemic yet. So that's the stance that they're taking.
Well, thank you so much for the update, Shannon. That was Shannon Teo, Malaysia Bureau Chief for the Straits Times. Elsewhere, from November the 1st, Thailand plans to allow quarantine-free entry for fully vaccinated travellers from at least 10 low-risk countries, including Singapore. These visitors will need to present negative results on 2 PCR tests done before travel and when they arrive in Thailand, and will then be free to move around the country. Meanwhile, this week, Indonesia is gearing up to reopen Bali and the Riau Islands to foreign visitors from some countries. Unfortunately, Singapore is not among the approved countries yet. Permitted visitors will still need to serve quarantine on arrival, but for a reduced period of 5 days, down from 8 days. Also in the news, HDB today revealing the extent of delays to BTO projects brought on by the pandemic. Of the 25 that were completed and delivered since January 2020, 17 were delayed by 6 months or less, while 8 were delayed by between 7 and 10 months. And home buyers waited for an average of 4.1 years. How will this information help people currently waiting for their BTO flats? Here with me now is journalist Michelle Ng. Michelle, what are some of the knock-on effects from BTO delays? For instance, has there been a greater demand for resale and rental flats?
Yes, definitely. So the most immediate effect from all the BTO delays is that the HDB resale market is doing very well these days. Not so good for buyers, but very good for sellers, obviously. For example, prices of resale flats now is higher than those in 2013, which was the last time prices shot up. And HDB resale prices have been climbing for the past 15 straight months, basically since we exited the circuit breaker last year. But many analysts have also said that prices have peaked and are showing signs of slowing down. So while prices are currently at its all-time high, it seems that Singaporeans have quite a limit or a cap to the prices that they are okay to pay for HDB flats. However, I would say that as long as BTO flats are delayed, the resale market will definitely see quite a lot of activities. And the same goes for the private property sector, which is the condos and the landed as well.
For sure. Well, Michelle, if I'm given a heads up, let's say that my new flat will be delayed as many of them are these days, what arrangement should I and the rest of my family make in the meantime?
So for now, HDB has said that BTO buyers who, when they have been informed of their delays of like maybe 6 months to a year or so, if they do not wish to wait for their BTO flats, they can cancel their flat bookings without penalties. So these penalties typically range from, so there's an option fee that people pay, which is about $500 to $2,000 or 5% of the flat price. So HDB said that they will consider letting buyers cancel their BTO flats without penalties if they want to go for like a resale flat in the meantime. And also HDB has another housing scheme, which is called the Parenthood Provisional Housing Scheme, PPHS, which helps families who need alternative accommodation while waiting for the completion of their BTO flats. But the catch is that there are very, very limited supply of these flats. So right now, there's only about 840 units under this scheme, and additional 800 will be added. So of course, as you can see, the numbers are really small. So recently, HDB has also tightened the conditions under which people can apply for this scheme. Right now, your combined household income, monthly household income cannot be more than $7,000. So basically, they're trying to prioritize this sort of interim rental flats for couples who actually need the flat right now at this point in time while they're waiting for their BTO flats.
Well, thank you for those points, Michelle. Very useful indeed. And of course, for coming on the show. That was my colleague at the Straits Times, journalist Michelle Ng. Meanwhile, condo resale prices climbing for the 14th straight month, rising 1% in September. And the highest transacted price, $26.3 million for a unit at Le Nouvel Ardmore, a freehold condo in the Tanglin area. Deliveroo is inviting 200 riders to upgrade to an electric bicycle, with the company paying for up to 50% of the cost of a new ride. The program aims to increase their earnings by making more deliveries in a shorter time. Coming up to 2 years now, an army of people have been at the forefront of Singapore's COVID-19 battle. I'm talking, of course, about doctors, nurses, community care staff, delivery riders, cleaners, and many, many more. Well, the Straits Times is paying tribute to them in an Instagram campaign called #STCOVIDHeroes. And to take part, pen a tribute to a frontliner and upload it on Instagram. You could post a photograph of a frontline worker you've met, a photo or video of of yourself thanking them, even a drawing or a card. Submissions must include the hashtag #STCOVIDHeroes, and they'll be displayed next week on the ST COVID Heroes tribute wall on our website. StraitsTimes.com is also where you'll find more news and videos. Subscribe to our YouTube channel as well by hitting the red button below. I'm Olivia Quay. See you tomorrow on The Big Story.